Hi Adam, last time we met, you said don't disbelieve in the next life. Now I am wondering, do you believe in ghosts? Yes or no? Do you think ghosts are real or not? Then why didn't they go to the next life?
The answer is quite intuitive. It's quite complicated. It takes another kind of imagination, another view of reality to understand this topic, because with the worldly view you have now is incomplete, so when I answer you then you will probably misinterpret. If your mind is very open, then I'd love to answer you and give you all the details to filter through your intuitive and logical mind and add into your big picture of reality. I would not like to disturb your mind too much at this time, because at this stage you are learning to become stable, learning what is concentration and how to meditate effectively. To project the mind too deeply into psychological exploration might not be what you need at this stage. I think right now should be concentrating on opening the mind, channeling more healing energy into your continuum, then you will have the light and power of wisdom to successfully explore these profound topics. Right now, you need to discover your inner stability. But I can see this question is dominating your mind, so we have to talk about it so then you can move on to what is most important for you, and that is developing concentration through meditation.
Why not just to try to explain? Let me know. Because, I recently had some experiences. I feel some entity trying to play some tricks on me. Etc., 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 etc. Like you said, if after you die everyone goes to the next life, then why are there ghosts that are still here?
What you're talking about could be called a ghost, but it's a spirit, and it's better to see it as a spirit because the spirit is interrelated with the energy of nature. In essence, everything has a spirit. Yeah, anything, even a rock, has a presence. It has a weight, it has a size, it has a dimension, it adds weight to the gravitational pull of the planet Earth. And because it fills a space, another thing cannot be in that space. So, the rock may appear to be present and inert in the human dimension. But when you look at the rock from an atomic dimension, it is alive, and when you look at the rock from the galactic view, it is hurtling through space and in constant movement in relation to all other entities. So even though it has its own reality, it is part of the greater whole. Now, because people live with an incomplete view of reality, they often suffer from misunderstandings that can be easily understood by unlocking their intuition. Humanity lives together in a bubble of shared consciousness that is based on the habits of believing in logic and science. We can't see ghosts unless we are somehow spiritually sensitive. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. Right? Every living creature has a physical body that is eventually must die. It is born, grows old, and passes away. Although most of us are unaware of it, we also have a spirit body that is not made of physical matter but is a subtler resonance of the physical body. Actually, the physical body is an emanation of the spiritual body, allowing it to function in the physical realm. The spiritual body reflects the soul, which is permanent and can never be extinguished. Because our consciousness is channeled through the senses of this physical body, our conscious view becomes attached to and functions in harmony with the physical human body until it expires, dies. I would love to talk with you about what happens after death, but you will need to practice more, and when the time is right we will go deeper into this reality. When the physical body dies, the subtle spirit body that is an expression of the soul separates, taking with it the realized qualities of the person forward, being swept along through the winds of natural becoming on the journey forward to judgment, realization, and eventually to rebirth into a suitable realm, world, and a new rebirth. The subtle body's separation from the physical body and its onward journey all happens gradually at exactly the right value according to the conscious qualities of the person dying. They say life is healing and giving, but death is also healing and giving. Sadly, there are consequences for denying our nature, and those consequences are confusion leading to pain and suffering. If we cling fearfully to our body during the death process, then the experience might not go as well as if we were more gratefully aware of our nature. So, the death process can potentially be wonderfully enlightening or terribly menacing depending on the quality of the individual's subconscious accumulation and the conscious connection with reality. This is why it's so important for us to evolve this intuitive connection with our nature before we die. When we die, we take a tour of our subconscious mind, and everything that is unresolved will have to be experienced. This is what people call judgment, where they think God is judging them and deciding whether they are suitable for heaven or hell. It is the nature of consciousness to be aware of its own condition. That's why we have happiness and suffering. It is the wisdom expressing our condition. When our awareness is no longer bound to the physical body, it becomes exalted and the consciousness expands immensely to penetrate and perceive its own condition without bias. This can be devastating to the ego because we see the results of all our actions from an unbiased perspective. We experience the happiness we shared and the pain that we inflicted on others, not from our own selfish point of view but from the ultimate perspective of truth, including seeing the thoughts and feelings of how others really felt about us. There is no other being judging us, it is simply the complete experience of our own luminosity, being aware of the nature of the one mind that is the essence of all minds. When the spirit is separated from the body, you could call it a ghost. When I die and my body is lying on the bed, my subtle body starts to move away from the scene that it can see an exalted view of the scene. It can directly experience the thoughts, feelings, and attitudes of all the friends standing around as it moves forward through the unrelenting force of becoming to the unfolding stages after death. At this time, if I was immensely powerful, I might be able to struggle against the force of becoming and cling to the worldly environment. In this case, I would have to be immensely powerful and have a clearly defined purpose that would keep me focused on whatever it was that caused me to resist my natural progression. So yes, death is a process of shrinking and expanding of consciousness, where the mind gets filtered through the elements and then unfolds into the subtle realms of existence, where it transports through many cycles of conscious processes before taking rebirth, perhaps in heaven, perhaps on earth, perhaps on another earth that is similar to ours but not the physical same place, or perhaps being reborn as an animal or even in the hell realm. The whole process is uncertain because it depends on many distant past life influences that may arise in the consciousness during the death judgment and realization process that throws us into the next life.
I know an American Taiwanese lady. She told me she talked to ghosts from the Qing dynasty. I was wondering why these ghosts were here for so many years.
Yes, there are ghosts, and no, there are not ghosts. Because from the mind you have now, it's hard to understand them. A spirit is not like a car. A car, you can say, has 4 wheels, some seats. A spirit may be stuck between the realms but believes it is in the worldly realm, so it fearfully clings to what it knows, maybe an environment, the house, a place, some people. It is possible but unlikely. The more likely possibility would be some higher entity like a Buddha, which is the highest, or a god or an angel, that all have the capacity to exist and influence in more than one realm of existence. But I would say, generally speaking, most people's experiences of ghosts are most likely to be fearful hallucinations. Not because ghosts and spirits do not exist, but because people have many fears. For example, they are afraid of the dark, they are afraid of the unknown, they are afraid of their own potential, or they grasp and fixate onto things they don't understand clearly and try to define them by elaborating on stories about things like ghosts or justifying reasons for their fearful condition. So most of these people are unstable. If we did have the stability, it would be impossible to be affected by ghosts or suffer spirit harm. Only by being weak and unstable we might start inviting spirit harm, by being fearful, maybe by worshipping something that without fully understanding we could create psychological worlds and narratives that channel our negative energies and create a conscious view that is a form of reality. We must remember that the mind's nature is immensely powerful. The mind has created everything that we see, touch, and experience, and someday you will see that much more clearly. A ghost has no physical presence, so I might be psychologically influenced, all motivated by the spirit that I perceived or even created to do some worldly damage. Another school of thought would be, are tsunamis and hurricanes influenced by spirits? Does the earth have a spirit? After all, billions of people are born and die and live in the world. They get all their food and experience living environments in the world. These are all questions you can ask yourself as an exercise to begin to enlighten your intuition. Meditate on this for a while. You drove the car far into the countryside. It was a beautiful day, you walked through the forest up to the top of a hill 3 or 4 kilometers. When you got back to the car in the afternoon you felt a bit sleepy. You reclined the front seat and fell asleep intending to have a short nap. You woke up and it was already 7 o'clock and quite dark. You realized you had left your new phone on a log at the top of the hill. It is very dark with no lights anywhere. You have a small torch. Will you walk up to the top of the hill or will you sleep in the car overnight? If we had recently read a ghost story or had been talking to people about the occult and these kinds of topics that we may now be fixated upon, would that increase our fear or the possibility of feeling a ghostly presence? So, whether or not there are ghosts, it doesn't matter. Simply by stabilizing the mind there is nothing to fear. Understanding ghosts are not the point. The point is that we must stabilize the mind. Only then can our comprehension of reality increase to naturally include and comprehend the spirit. But when we haven't got a stable mind, our consciousness will be hijacked by every imaginable kind of fear that may lead to a lifetime of deep trauma. All planted by one seed, possibly one conversation that we ourselves added fuel to the fire until it consumed our whole life and left us destitute with no peace or hope, like a fearful animal hiding between the rocks afraid of what might happen in the future. There is no peace or self-respect in this kind of mind. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I just don't understand why when the ghost can go to the next life, why the ghost is still here.
Well, in some cases, the ghosts may be here, and in other cases the person may be irrational by imagining it or whatever.
Many more questions about ghosts.
Imagine if someone fell in love with you and because of your great beauty they became obsessed. They started tracking your phone, taking photographs and recording your voice. They were so fixated with you that they became a psychopath. One day they found that you had fallen in love with another guy. This totally devastates them and they are so focused only on you that one day they unconsciously walk out in front of a bus and get killed. This could possibly be a cause of the spirit not being able to reincarnate and therefore might abide between the realms as a ghostly entity because they are clinging to some imagined reality and feel they have some unresolved business. Now, these ghosts could have violent intentions, pretty extreme. But they would be powerless in the physical world unless they could feed off the fear of an imbalanced person and take some kind of possession through the fear. So, in reality, how can believing in ghosts help you? To worry about ghosts, to believe in ghosts is such a waste of life. It's better to try and comprehend the nature of the spirit, which is the same nature in all living creatures and connects all environments. It's the same nature within you and me and all the people around us. By comprehending this we can understand each other. Isn't that more worthwhile? To answer your question, I don't think ghosts would stay for hundreds of years. I don't know if it's possible, considering that absolutely anything is possible, so I guess the answer is yes, but it's unlikely.
I know an American Taiwanese lady. She collects all kinds of Chinese antiques for many years. Her whole house is full of antiques. She has a small forbidden city in her house. And she said in the Qing dynasty something happened and she told me, I believe what she said. She believes ghosts can stay for such a long time because they didn't find peace for hundreds of years.
But okay, whether or not she's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's very interesting, but all the same, she's obsessive. And it's unnecessary. Why would you look back into history unless we can help the future? So, because she's looking back, she's going into a short circuit, means a circle. And she's investing her mind and her actions and her reputation and her life in this circle that is closed. Now she's not helping anyone. She wants to draw people into her circle to make them part of her reality. Okay, now how's it going to help you? Even if there was a ghost or there is a ghost or whatever. How does that help you?
It's just about a hard time believing in the next life when I believe in ghosts in the world that don't go to the future life.
So, if you do believe in ghosts, then why wouldn't you believe in the next life? Because look, how many people die in the world every year? Where are all their ghosts? How many people do you know that are talking about all these ghosts? Not many people. There are some ghost stories. But there's not much interest. I think people are more interested in living than dying, although they should put some mind into understanding the bigger picture that includes death. They should never be fixated and fearful of death. Maybe there's a ghost or whatever. Okay. Now, where are the rest of the spirits if they haven't been born into the next life? So, everything you're saying supports this view. It's not my view, it's just an accepted view. I mean, in modern society, we don't really try to comprehend these things deeply because we're so fixated on technology, we don't really care about heaven anymore. But in the older days, you know, for many thousands of years, the whole world, every continent and every country before ships could connect the continents, everyone believed in heaven and hell, right? Now, it's because now we have computers and money and airplanes. We don't need heaven, because we're trying to create a heaven on earth. You know, just through material things, through science and stuff like that. But this can never happen. Throughout antiquity, all of humanity has always believed in heaven. It's only in modern times, the last 50 years, that we have less interested in the scope of reality. What I'm saying, it's not my view. It's the view of humanity generally, that there's a heaven and we're born into heaven. So that's reincarnation. Yeah, and some ghosts. I would say, yes, that would be right. Ghosts do exist, but they do not normally relate to human consciousness. Some people who do not move with the natural flow of becoming may be obsessed. And then they get into the small circle, like the Taiwanese lady who collects antiques. Some people have obsessions with books. Some people in history. That's what they do. My obsession is with reality. And that includes, embraces, and penetrating all of those things. So, I'm open to all those things. I'm not saying any of it is real or not real, because it depends on the scope of the view of existence.
A long time ago, there was a guy who's a Mormon. I asked, why do Mormons want to have so many kids? They want to give the spirits of angels more chance to experience life in the physical world. I thought that was an incredible thing. They normally have like 5 to even 10 kids. Yes. So, I couldn't understand why they want to have so many kids all the time.
Yeah, well, that's right. He's right. I love what he says, I agree with it. Because, you know, the point is this. If the Mormons, their values are good, right, they live a healthy life and they have a healthy environment, society, and minds. If they have more kids, of course, the world would become increasingly more beautiful, of a higher quality. And that would invite ever more beings of a higher quality of heart and mind to be born into the world. And that's a good thing. It would make the world into a pure realm, you know, a pure realm, a pure world, more like heaven, that would bring heaven to earth. And that's right.
So, at this point, I think maybe this all makes sense. There is next life, so maybe I will go back to my meditation with more confidence. I couldn't make progress. A couple of reasons. One of the reasons I have had time to believe it, I guess, is really to my culture, to my background. You know, I think most of my Chinese still believe in the next life. Yes. And it's just the kind of old culture.
Let's make it really clear, I'm not saying you should believe in the next life. What I'm saying is you should remain open-minded, that is the essential point to making progress at looking in the face of reality. When we disbelieve something, we are limiting our view, especially when we disbelieve something because we think it's old culture. It would be better to say I don't know than to say I disbelieve something based on other people's opinions or cultural conditioning. Do you see the difference? We talked about this the other day. I said, you don't have to believe in the next life. But if you disbelieve, that means you are refuting. Then I said, that is going to be an obstacle to making progress. All I said is just keep the possibility open and not to react against any of that. Just allow it to come into the mind without having an aversion like, I don't like it. Well, I don't agree. Just allow it to enter the mind and connect with the larger subconscious view. And then see what happens over time. If I see something horrible ugly, I will try not to overreact, I'll just go yeah, that's not very nice. It may be someone with a broken bone, in a car accident, or even a dead body on the street. It won't help to have sleepless nights haunted by the ugly sight. Overreacting like that means we have to go see a psychiatrist because the mind has been damaged. The mind was not damaged by the ugly side, the mind was damaged by the habitual overreaction, the habitual shock, and fear. Our reactions to everything we experience training the mind. We can train the mind to be fearless with logic and reason, or we can train the mind to be neurotic by overreacting. So, we don't want to practice aversion toward whatever appears in reality. This is the same response we should have if we encounter some kind of spirit, or what you might call it, a ghost. Whether or not there is a ghost, simply by being fearful we are creating spirit harm in our own mind. If we run away from this spirit is nowhere we can go, we can never escape it because it is in our own mind we have created its reality through fear, and aversion will become obsessive. Believing in ghosts is not a necessary requirement for a healthy mind. Whether or not ghosts exist is irrelevant, all our intention should go into developing a stable and healthy mind that can comprehend reality as it appears without preconceptions of fear and aversion. If we practice putting our obsessions behind us, they will eventually dissipate like clouds blown away by the winds of becoming. Spirit harm is attracted to and feeds off fear and obsession.
I agree that we should be more open-minded to see all kinds of possibilities. Not only just see about the next life, last life, but just about life itself.
Yeah. Hey, you're intelligent, and you're interested. You're an interesting person. You're very bright. The problem many of us have is that maybe we focus our energy on the things that didn't balance us very well. Yes. And that can be easily fixed. You know, it just takes a little bit of patience, a little bit of time. And the balance will come, and the confidence will come, and the brightness will start shining through us, and it's a beautiful natural thing. By letting go of our obsessions, they are replaced with something like the brightness of experience and intelligence.
My second obstacle is that I realize I've been hurt from past relationships. For a long time I was damaged badly. I can hardly see any brightness. You were right. I think there's a lot to do with lack of motivation, and I lost interest in many things. I tried to fix it, but I just don't know what I can do to make progress. This is another reason why I couldn't do well with my meditation. I didn't have the energy, and I felt tired and couldn't bring my mind to meditate.
It doesn't matter so much about what you see as the failure. We just have to allow life to move from one moment to the next. It's like the wind blowing through the trees. The wind blows the old leaves away and it cleans the tree to make room for new leaves and budding flowers and eventually fruits. This is the cleaning nature of the movement of life that we call becoming. The force of becoming is irresistible. It's going to remove everything and eventually will overcome our body and take away all our possessions. We can either use it as a tool to remove the unwanted leaves, which are the obsessions, so we have room in our lives for new and fresh experiences. The more we cling to failed relationships or businesses, the more we are struggling against the nature of things. This is the struggle we can never win.
I go back to my old habit. Yeah, that's right. I always go back to my old habit.
Because we're holding on to the things that are already lost. In a way, we're all ghosts because we're holding on to things that have no foundation in our world. So slowly, time heals everything. That's nature, time does heal. And then we will forget. But the problem is will you cut ourselves? That leaves a scar, right? And when we have these deep emotional pains, they leave scars, and those scars are big. Eventually, when we turn that old view inside out and we grow to realize more, we meditate more or listen to some wisdom that sings in our own mind, and the wisdom light grows inside us, then those scars turn into victory. We will learn all life's experiences, no matter how bad, will turn into very wise realizations that will give us the wisdom not only ourselves but will help us to help others in the future. In this way, there's nothing bad that can happen. This is the all good. It is just we have to allow that movement, the flow, to flow through us, through our mind like the wind through the trees, and that will clean all, and then when we have more light which will come, then we'll see all those things much more clearly.
I just don't feel like I have the clarity and quality of the vision that you have, or maybe not so open-minded. So sometimes I just go back to my old habits, because it's the only thing I know. I was kind of upset because of myself not being able to move forward. Etc., etc., etc.
Yes, in a way this other person should consider your feelings, he should know how sensitive and caring you are. But we must take responsibility for our own emotions and our own needs, and we cannot depend on others to respect or fulfill these needs.
I actually believe we are very important to each other, but the distance is so great and it has become so complicated over the years. I don't expect anything anymore, now I just need to think of him as a colleague.
Relationships are generally very tough. Some years ago a girl came to me for some advice, and she said she was distressed about love and the pain she felt inside. She was quite beautiful, but she was in deep distress. She said to me, "Nobody in the whole world, even in world history, ever loved a man more than I loved this guy." Yeah, I can understand that feeling. But it's the same feeling I've had, it's the same feeling you have, is the same feeling so many people have experienced. I'm sure a lot of teenagers are heartbroken every day thinking that their love is the deepest love. Love can experience amazing highs and amazing lows. But we should respect other people's feelings equal to our own. If we put ourselves at the top of the world and can say our love is greater than other people's love, then we are searching for suffering, and we have greatly underestimated reality. Love is just love, and if it wasn't this guy, would be another guy or another guy, in whichever city or country will live in. Everyone's potential for love is the same, so projecting love onto others is something we all do. The difficulty we have is that we mistakenly think we are unique and our lover is unique, and our mind tells us that if we can't have the guy or the object of our obsession, there's no one in the whole world that can replace that person, so there's no point in living anymore. We tell ourselves repeatedly life is meaningless and that we are not worthy of love and that our love has been rejected. Of course, if we repeat these things to ourselves, we come to believe them. If we replace these wrong views with right views that are positive, and sooner or later we will leave the old painful ways behind and we will set off on to a beautiful path towards a bright future. Actually, we created the whole story. It's my love that I'm feeling and that I'm projecting onto others. It's not their love that I'm feeling at all. The point is, if we let go of the past and stop prolonging the cycle that we are stuck inside of, repeating these wrong views over and over again like a mantra, they become cause and effect that will occur, throwing us into the depths of despair. It's something we created. All this is a little sad because we can project our love onto our family instead of someone far away. To break an old relationship, I think the most important thing is to change that person's status to a friend or an old friend, but never get angry at them and never blame them. Just remove yourself from the situation. I know women with families and children who still obsess over their high school boyfriend who they haven't met in 20 years. This is very unhealthy for the marriage and for the family. It's surprisingly common.
Even though he's so far away, I feel I'm holding on to things and I have nothing else left, so I have been damaged very badly. When we communicate, we feel a lot better, but it is not satisfying because of the distance between us.
It's time to do maintenance. It's time to clean the house and remove all the old newspapers and magazines and make the house fresh and clean. By that I mean the mind, the heart, and the body. If there's no room on the bookshelves, there's no room for new stories. One door closes, another door opens. This is life, always moving, always fresh, and new opportunities that are equal to all past opportunities. Nothing is lost. I had a friend in New Zealand who met an American Indian princess, a pure-blood Indian lady, and they fell in love over the internet, within 6 months she had come to New Zealand to marry this friend. They never saw each other in person but spoke to each other on the internet every day. They were obsessed with telling each other everything they thought the other one would want to hear but never exposing their true qualities or personality. Within the first few days after arriving in New Zealand they got married and they went to live in the countryside. And within 2 months I think the guy had nearly killed her. The police were called in and they were separated, never to see each other again. Needless to say, they were both extremely disappointed and hated each other. I believe the truth is that they fell in love with themselves, and the person that they were looking at on the internet was a mesmerizing reflection of their own projection, and they never once stopped for a moment to take a true look at the other person. What is love? Did we ever ask ourselves that question? Would we just follow our feeling blindly? This kind of love is not going to last because it's not true love, it's nothing more than a needy obsession. This kind of love is just a small aspect or reflection of the true nature of love. We have become blinded like a moth against the light bulb, thinking we've arrived at some bright reality, only to be disappointed. It's like eating chocolate instead of a meal. We can eat vegetables, we can eat rice, or we can just pig out on chocolate. Eventually, we're going to get physically and mentally sick because we have misunderstood reality. If you only eat chocolate, we begin to feel sick. We have all these choices for food, a balanced diet like vegetables and rice. The vegetables are the philosophy that expands our worldview, and the rice is the meditation that balances the concepts and brings them into our worldly actions. Together it's perfect and the results will be healthy. This is like the balance of true love that just shines out in every direction equally, like the light bulb or like the sunshine. This kind of true love doesn't mean you have to have sex with everybody. Having a relationship is a very personal thing. It's an agreement between two people who trust each other. Now that's not about love so much. It's about sharing some feelings, channeling the energy between you. Yes, that will grow. But that will also make you shine more. By feeding off healthy thoughts, the mind gets stronger, and so, if we channel healthy love, the light of love will shine much brighter. And if we share this love with somebody who is very close to us and with who we share the physical experiences, yes, that light will shine much brighter. But we must understand that this love is solely the product of our own mind and heart opening. And we feel love for life and whatever appears. It might be an old man walking down the street, he's in need, and you ask him, "Can I hold your hand and help you across the road?" And you get this feeling from your heart to his heart. And he looks at you and says, "Oh, hi, you're beautiful." And then you experience love for him, through him, and into the world. That's pure and true love. This way we get the meaning of life. Wow, it's just wonderful, and the beauty of his life flows throughout body and mind into the world, and this flow increases the capacity for our experience of reality. The more we channel reality, the greater the capacity becomes. And that's all I'm trying to teach here. That's pretty much everything. How to increase our capacity to comprehend and channel a greater view of reality. When we bring this life energy back home to our relationship, it just helps us channel the light and makes the light come through spontaneously and shine brighter. It's not something we can manipulate, but it is something that we do have some control over through our intention and by practicing a positive, affirming mind. Personally, I couldn't see myself obsessing in a relationship again. But for some people, obsession is a wonderful thing. It enriches their lives because in some ways pain is better than nothing. It makes life seem real because without it life feels flat. There's no excitement or danger, and this is why women are often attracted to dangerous men. Sometimes after a difficult relationship, we will lack the energy to bounce back because we have given too much and we are exhausted. And when our source of inspiration, the partner that we are leaving or separating from, is not present, we feel lost with no energy, destitute. But after a little while, the natural flow of becoming and a positive outlook and nourishment from positive activities and worldly connections will soon invigorate us, and we will bounce back better than ever. We know that our behavior is somewhat obsessive towards objects that come to our attention. While this is inflicting a lot of suffering, it is not the actual cause of the suffering. The cause of the suffering comes from not understanding our subconscious mind's accumulation. Therefore, even if we move on from an old, possibly dysfunctional, or abusive relationship, the cause of our suffering will remain. And that cause is not having a balanced view of reality that results in planning positive agendas that result in meaningful outcomes. So, this suffering comes from a much deeper source than the conscious object that we blame for the suffering. Even when we remove that object, we are still in the same condition, and the suffering will arise again in the cycle of becoming. By removing the difficulty of the relationship, we feel some release and then happiness, but soon enough we will find another object to blame, and the same suffering will recur over and over again until we realize the root of the cause. And the only way to fix this cause is by developing a basic understanding of the mind's nature. As this basic psychological imbalance is linked with so many other aspects of our conscious actions and subconscious impulsions and psychology, the only thing we can do is expand our fragmented view of reality until it becomes more complete and in tune with reality. This balances our mindfulness and actions. I think everybody is somewhat obsessive and impulsive. It is human nature to cherish and guard the possessions and beliefs that we value. To a large degree, this is a great quality to have. The biggest problem that produces conflict and unhappiness in our lives comes from not thoroughly comprehending the objects and beliefs that we are reflexively defending. When the self-image, which we believe to be our total truth and view of reality, has evolved randomly without much mindfulness, this will cause deep psychological conflicts that inevitably will spill out into the world through our thoughts and actions. All of these troubles can be fixed, balanced, repaired, and made good without a great deal of effort. The irrational thing is that people will read up until this point and ask the question, how do I do it? How do I fix this? This means that they have been mindlessly reading and not absorbing this precious information. This means they're not being mindful and that have gone through life this way, and that is their condition. Nobody is to blame, because that is the general state of society and humanity in modern times. So, as we said, being obsessive is not such a bad thing if your object is healthy and meaningful. When our psychology is not balanced, we go through life blaming and grasping onto one thing, and that thing passes, we start on a new thing, struggling from one thing to the next, creating and collecting negative imprints on our subconscious mind. The ideal situation is to have a balanced mind that sees the world objectively and allows the flow of becoming to arise and path through the mind and senses and actions back into the world with as few obstructions as possible. This way we are being pushed along by the natural flow of time-space objects. The mind and body synchronize seamlessly in the patient, considered, respectful and grateful mind, and of course, the outcomes will reflect this. Whatever comes, we feed off it. We don't run away from the natural flow and grab onto things as anchors or shield us from the inevitable. Things like aging and death are unavoidable. We should try to understand them and allow them to happen graciously and with gratitude. We cannot be young unless we grow old. The two things come together, and that is reality. If we are happy to be young and later become fearful of getting old, we are not comprehending reality. Whatever happens, we allow the natural flow to evolve and pass through our body, mind, and express in our actions. So as we see things arise, we are always mindful and grateful, just like that beautiful bird singing in the tree outside the window. Can you hear it? Can we hear that bird's song in our hearts? We are connected to the bird through our senses. Does it lead to some kind of realization of the perfection of nature? This is the realization and awareness of the expansion of our reality outside the body through the senses and the mind. When we become mindful, then we are no longer trapped in the body.
I've been seeing so many people's marriage relationships fall apart. I've seen my family, my friends are having affairs. And I am just very disappointed with marriage. Just like an upset. It seems like people get married, and after a couple of years they get bored. Maybe this is a natural thing with human beings. So, all marriages after 5 years are probably not going to work out anyway. So, I'm just very disappointed. I have lost my interest in getting into a relationship.
You seem to think that all relationships are about marriage. When you think about relationships, are you thinking long-term things? And you're not dealing with the day-by-day evolution by letting the relationship grow and blossom and realize its own unique reality. You're crushing that reality with your expectation. I remember meeting a beautiful girl. We went out together maybe 4 times in 1 week. We made love only once. Things were going sort of okay. We were a long way from getting to know each other, but it was the beginning of something and I was feeling quite relaxed about seeing her. However, the next day she invited me to her house for dinner, so I turned up and brought her a flower. Over dinner, she felt a little nervous, and eventually, she asked me what my long-term intention with her was. I was quite surprised and for one side didn't really know how to respond because it was quite a sensitive and potentially damaging subject. However, I said I haven't looked that far ahead and that I was happy at the moment meeting the way we meet and getting to know each other. Then she got quite aggressive and asked me if I was playing games with her. This was a side of her I had never seen before. Then I told her in my mind a boy and girl need time to know each other deeply. Maybe they date for 1 year and even live together for a while to see how it feels, and then after, if everything is really well, they might start thinking about the future and marriage. This answer infuriated her, but she put on her best face while she told me another guy had asked to marry her and that if I wanted I could marry her first. I was astounded because I felt that manipulating somebody into getting married was contradictory to my values. For me, the spell was broken and I couldn't wait to get out of there. Perhaps I was very selfish and should have been more graceful. But I quickly replied to her that I was delighted for her and her new husband-to-be and I wished them all the best luck in the future, which I believed that they would need. I said thank you for the dinner and I left. I didn't for a moment think that she was marrying anyone, but my intuition clearly stated to me that she was trying to deceive me. Whatever the truth of the situation, it was plainly outside of my acceptable bounds to marry someone after a week, because I think marriages are very serious and potentially wonderful or devastating life choices and shouldn't be entered into unwittingly. When the parents introduce a girl to a friend of the family and they are pressurized into getting married, then I believe the outcome would almost certainly be unhappy, although I am sure there are many happy exceptions amongst the many millions of arranged marriages. It would be a small percentage. So, the naive people who would accept an arranged marriage could only be living with a very narrow view of reality. If they accept other people's views as being superior or more real than their own view, then they are being extremely unwise, even ignorant, and this will lead to future unhappiness. Even though we have traveled around the world and met many international people and worked in the international trading company, and we have much more experience than most people we know, our view is quite narrow. To broaden the view of reality, we must take at least a partial interest in history, crafts, culture and philosophy, and develop a reasonable set of life skills and be able to represent ourselves socially and intellectually. We must have the confidence to defend our freedom of choice. Only then are we qualified with enough knowledge, skills and worldview clarity, stability and independence to live a happy life. This is at least the basic foundation required for realization. The key to happiness is to be somewhat self-aware. Self-awareness is knowing your own potential, not just following the path of others. It is constantly increasing the sense of reality and channeling the life force, which increases our capacity and sustains everything we see and do. This kind of person is undeniable, can never get bored, and can never accept being taken for granted or undervalued in a relationship. Perhaps marriage isn't the right option for some people, and for others it is perfect. I know some people who have lived together all their lives and that never married. Perhaps the possibility of freedom, that you can just pack your bag and leave, takes away a lot of the pressure. Perhaps having that freedom is scary, so the couple is very careful about treating each other well. I think it's more a matter of keeping an open mind all the time. This is practicing mindfulness by understanding the cause of the action and the result. I think that marriages can be amazing between two people with open minds who know each other well and are ready, and they match together really well. But maybe you just didn't experience the right person yet. And this is about numbers. I mean, especially, I think humanity hasn't evolved enough. And I think humanity could easily completely evolve. And the dynamic could be amazing, the intelligence could grow, the communication could be much clearer, much more intuitive. The education system needs to evolve first. But you know, that's my view. And that's what I teach. If you look at my websites, I've got 4 websites. There's a lot of information on there about these things. So, I believe humanity could easily grow. I'm writing a book aimed at stimulating this growth and helping humanity to develop in the most intuitive possible way. So, the point is, I think people all around here, the billions of people in Asia, the millions of people in America, the billions of people around the world only have a partial view of reality. And because our view is not complete, it is imbalanced and is destined to create many struggles both with themselves and with relationships, and also relationships between countries, businesses and groups, including demographics. That also means the generation gap. So, what is the full view? It is what I'm teaching here. What? Okay, do we want to know? I'm simply having a conversation and pointing out the big picture of existence, right? Of potentiality. Right? Can we imagine that big picture in our own minds? I'm certainly not asking to believe anything I say. What I'm asking is to consider a broader scope of possibilities that would lead our mind to become very intuitively abundant. Imagine that we have grown up in a house with no lights. Okay, we feel our way around inside the house, and we know exactly where everything is, but only by feeling. We have been living in this place all our lives and we think we know it very well. But we didn't even know there was a light switch in the house. Right? But one day Adam comes into your house and naturally turns on the light switch. And everyone goes, wow, I can see the colors, I can see all the things, and some were really quite beautiful. It's amazing. I have never seen this kind of beauty before, and it was around me all the time. This is the higher view, which is not higher, but it is more complete, and it resonates with reality and the truth that looks past the individual ego and sees the connection between all things in existence. And then suddenly, there's a whole other part of reality presented to you. It was there all the time, but you lacked the comprehension to turn on the light switch. This is exactly what is missing in the culture of humanity at this time, this natural and existing innate connection with reality that we can experience through our senses all the time, but we are too busy and preoccupied and even socially conditioned to look at our own inborn values. This is an essential part of the big picture that I'm trying to explain, switching on the light so we can see clearly for the first time. Okay, but it's your view, your eyes, that are seeing. So, all I'm doing is trying to unblock the preconceptions by pointing out where the switch is so you can use that light yourself. Very soon you will become independent and able, but it just takes a little bit of faith to accept the possibility of a greater reality. Is there anything that I have ever said that conflicts with your own view of truth? My intention is to support your view and introduce wholesome, healing, helpful and inspiring conversation that opens many doors in the mind and heart and brings confidence. I would hope that everything I say has a ring of truth to it and that nothing I said defends your culture. In our hearts all we need is a little bit of truth to increase the light, and when we are grateful the light in the mind naturally evolves. It's as simple as that. Having gratitude for our existence in this way is impossible to do anything destructive because our inborn wisdom will guide us. So, let's turn the light on. It will take us a little bit of time to become familiar with the illuminated mind, but imagine how transformative that will be in our life journey.
I know. It's just that I don't yet see the other reality.
It's not another reality. It is a more complete view of the reality we now live. For example, instead of being preoccupied and in a hurry to get somewhere, we practice being more relaxed. This opens the mind, and when we arrive at where we are going we are in a better condition. This is an illustration of a more complete view. Meditation can help with the awareness of relaxing, and these talks can help to be more aware of the expanded view. By being patient and experiencing both the meditations and the talks, the nature of the mind will evolve spontaneously. We come here because we believe there is some way to find and live a bright future. The reason we cannot be unhappy is that we feel the futility of living this way and we believe there should be more to life, so we do not feel fulfilled at this time, and that's why we're intuitively looking for a path to happiness and fulfillment. Living this way seems to be a waste of our lives. Yeah, and I feel the same way too. Except I don't depend on others for my happiness. I found a path to happiness that is totally free and is very easy. Of course, life is not perfect and everybody has ups and downs. Imagine being happy all the time, maybe we will get bored, I don't know. Look, when I see flowers, I don't just see all the roses. I experienced every rose is a unique flower. Imagine dating a guy who is constantly looking at other girls. In a way, everyone is like this guy. When we buy something, it no longer excites us and we look forward to making the next purchase. When we go to see a movie and we walked home and turn on the TV and we'd forgotten the movie, we replaced the movie with the next thing instead of contemplating the story and what it meant. This is a terrible habit that undervalues life. We have to be mindful of the choice between good and bad habits, good and bad choices. This has huge consequences in our lives. Each and every moment is full of vitality, only if we are mindful. Perhaps we are looking for love in the wrong place, perhaps seeing that old man who needs you to hold his hand to help him walk across the road, he falls in love with you, you made his day, his week, his year, you made his life meaningful. The problem is that we label the old man as old and unattractive, so we miss the valuable connection because we do not know how to respect life. Whether it happens in a meditation about the old man, or it happens in reality, both are equally real. Fulfillment only works when you consciously add value to relationships. This inborn attitude is what we need to nurture. Yeah, that's our sacred garden. Sacred is all things meaningful. Now we need to water that garden. And when we water that without good intention and actions, things will grow. Okay, so let's stop wasting our energy putting it on something that's impossibly far away. If we want to love, love is everywhere and it's free. It's an attitude that we need to nurture. Let's not purposely create failure by focusing our love on someone who's living halfway around the world. No one wants to see anyone else hurting. You're the leader of the family with children and relatives. Surely our own well-being is our own primary responsibility. Seeing someone suffering really makes those around them very sad, especially when it's needless and self-inflicted. When we express light and happiness, this brings happiness to everyone around. It's free, it's wise, and it's the right thing to do to pay back to the parents and grandparents for their nurturing, and not waste all their efforts by falling into depression. You are beautiful, life is beautiful, life flows through everything, all we need to do is be grateful. This brings joy. So, if you want to have real happiness, that go looking for handsome men, start with the old man who will be grateful for a helping hand to cross the road, and this will enlighten your heart and mind. This is a wise choice. Handsome guys can come when you have a stable mind and you are fearless. That's why awareness of the big picture is so important. Because if we know there's a bigger picture and our views are not complete, just by knowing that means that we're living a fertile life because we have planted the seeds of curiosity which will bear the fruit of knowledge. That picture now has all the numbers, and all you have to do is allow the colors and experiences to come to you. And the picture will fill in itself simply by being patient, simply by allowing the becoming the world to arise unobstructed. And that will clean out all the old things, or wash like the wind through the trees to remove all the old leaves and make space for the light to shine, and new leaves will grow. Nature naturally fertilizes the mind, and everything will come to the bees attracted by the flowers, birds will have room to rest, and fruits will ripen. You are not alone in the world, we are all connected and we all support each other.
I hope my mind will become stronger just by realizing the truth.
Be patient. The first thing is to have faith. Faith brings meaning, then you can believe what rings true. What rings true may be from a book or from a person or from whatever. I will support you to grow to become more stable and independent. That's the goal. I don't want you just to follow me blindly and do what I say. The commitment must be generated by your own heart and mind. You come here so you can blossom, and that's destiny.
I wondered why my meditation wasn't improving. I just had a part of the views. I was so obsessed. And I had a hard time believing the next life and the last life. The other ladies said it's so easy to make progress, so that's why I am frustrated with myself.
I don't think you need to worry about the meditation. If you follow the process patiently, the results will come. It is simply a matter of seeing the value of releasing from your old habits. There are many reasons people come to hear the teachings. Some people naturally aspire to the ultimate truth in the higher happiness. Others are tired of carrying heavy burdens and they want to have a change in attitude and increase their vision, their view of reality, and others who may be in greater need of guidance to save them from falling into a deep depression. Whatever the reason, they have taken the right steps to find true and long-lasting happiness. Now we take stock. We say, well, I've tried so many things and it's not working. And, okay, well, there's a ring of truth in Adam's teachings of the sacred garden and pure realm. And I inspired these people to have the power to make some small but essential changes in their attitude and vision. In the beginning, we usually don't have to make big changes. In most cases, I remind people of what they know intuitively and what they need to keep in mind. Some people are better off out of a relationship until they gain stability. In this way they can take responsibility for those around them like family members and children and use that as a motivation to develop a healthier and happier attitude. There is no point in pretending everything's okay when it's not. At some point, we have to accept that we need help and find out what is the best and most effective method to find stability and happiness. It might not always be what we thought it should be. In the case when someone comes to see me, I'm telling them to look mindfully within themselves because the answer is there. There's no point in eating chocolate to make oneself happy, doing sports to distract oneself wouldn't help, taking medicines is more damaging when the answer is all about awareness. And that's a good basis to grow, to allow whatever comes to come naturally and spontaneously, and this stability of the view is what we need, because without a stable view of reality we are lost. And that's why all of these people come here to find a happy solution. In many cases, they've been pretending for a very long time that everything was okay, but they realize they are prolonging the unhappiness.
I realized a long time ago that I don't think money is something that makes you happy.
Outside or worldly happiness will never be enough. Because we'll always want more and more and more until we've got 5 houses and Mercedes and BMWs, 5 wives all around different cities. And then we are still not satisfied, then we turn to drugs or alcohol or something unhealthy. And then by then we are already sick and broken. And then people are pointing the finger, this girl and that girl, and you're getting calls from haters, and we go, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. I thought I was a good guy, but look at me now, so unhappy, so unhealthy, even though I paid money to that girl and bought this house for my second family and pay, and nobody's ever happy. This kind of nightmare can only happen when someone looks for happiness in the world outside. True happiness comes through the heart. Treat everything as if it is unique, every moment, every person, every event. Live with gratitude and give everything the attention and respect it deserves. Even if the relationship is not working, be respectful and don't blame others. Even the yellow movie stars. They have wives and children and families that they have to support. But they have some kind of agreement. I don't know what it is. But it's a bit weird, but they manage to live, you know. So, it's nothing wrong. It's just whatever is your reality. Whatever works for you. We are all unique and our situations are unique too, so we shouldn't compare ourselves to others or judge others too harshly. Thank you. Yeah, happiness will come. The nature of existence is in us. We're born with life. We are born onto our mother's breast, otherwise we wouldn't be born if there was nobody to nurture us. It is the natural way of life to be cared for and care for each other. This kind of love cannot be possessed, cannot cause pain and suffering. We do not grow up in the middle of the countryside with no shelter and nobody to look after us. We all have everything we need, and if we suffer from a wound we will heal. In our lives, if we do not have gratitude, then as we start to grow older we lose our power, we start to panic and worry and become easy angry, and that's because we have never really understood the nature of reality. I think this is the case for most people. They worry about themselves and their own ego and want to control everything. Life provides so much for us to appreciate, and was surrounded by all this beauty. Can you hear the birds singing in the tree? Most of us can't hear it because we're too busy worrying or thinking about the future. It's all about me, 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 me. Because we are not generally very happy, but we still have quite a lot of happiness, but it's not the deep happiness and the deep confidence, that deeper connection that we all aspire to have. So we go up and down, around and around, pretending to be happy, hoping to be happy, and having short-term happiness, only to plunge back down into despair. This situation only compounds itself and gets ever worse. We try to be patient and put a brave face on things to have some positive thinking that we do not have a stable base. This always throws us into a bad mood, and we want to give up because one obsession affects our balance and everything becomes infected.
I have had a really hard time learning this important knowledge. Every time I practice what you say and I feel better, but then the bad mind just comes back again and I feel not as bad as before, but I still feel it's hard to make progress.
Yes. Of course, you can see the pattern of becoming as it cycles through your thinking, and feelings are expressed through habits by your actions. How long have you known me?
A few months.
You have been in this situation for many lifetimes, and do you expect so many lifetimes of difficulties to be cured so easily? To be realistic, inner healing is a process, and we can expect to spend some time learning to apply the remedy mindfully. There are a few levels of consciousness that we need to fully understand before the remedy can effectively infuse the mind. It's important that we are consistently mindful as we are experiencing our cycles of ups and downs, highs and lows. There is no point only being mindful when we're happy, because this awareness has to become a habit. Eventually, mindfulness will be like a reflex and you will not have to be so conscious of it. But to start with, we must practice mindfulness consistently for it to have any transformative value. It is possible for some people to take the teachings to heart and experience a rapid transformation. That's why we should nurture faith and believe in the teachings, not blindly but by applying as much awareness as we can generate without becoming obsessed or overly stressed. Some effort and stress are sometimes good things, but we should try to avoid losing balance because we fall into a mental struggle. Just keep doing the practice patiently and the process will certainly work. Remember, the deeper the suffering that we've experienced, the more inspiration we have to make a change, so that is a really good thing.